Welcome to Light Her Up, your go-to podcast for exploring what it means to align with your passions and create a life filled with freedom, ease, and fulfillment. I'm your host, Natalie Bernacki, a mom, entrepreneur, and certified coach who left a 15-year corporate career to build a life aligned with my passions and help other women do the same. We'll be diving deep into topics like self-discovery, mindset shifts, and the courage to pursue the life you've always dreamed of. Thank you for being here and for prioritizing yourself. I'm honored to be a part of your journey. If you're ready to find your joy, reclaim your identity, and upgrade your life, you're in the right place. Now let's light it up. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the Light Her Up podcast. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by Sarah Arvizu, an incredible woman who I had the opportunity to meet this year in person and get to know. She is a single mom of 2 girls, a full-time professional. She's a podcaster of an amazing podcast called Creating Sunshine. And she's an incredibly powerful voice on transformation, resilience, and reclaiming her light. She also truly embodies what it is to create sunshine in your life in all seasons of your life. We dive into her powerful journey from burnout and overwhelm to healing, self-prioritization, and learning how to show up for herself first, especially after receiving a life-altering breast cancer diagnosis just back in January. This episode is for the woman who's checking the boxes, pouring into everyone else, and feeling like there has to be more. We talk about what burnout looks like as a full-time working mom, the wake-up call that changes everything, tools and mindsets that help her create sunshine moments in the darkest of times, and how she shows up now for herself, for her kids, and for her mission. So keep listening if you're ready to stop surviving and start truly living with purpose, perspective, and power. And a quick pause before we dive in. Our sold out in-person mastermind is going virtual and you are going to want to get in. If you describe yourself as a rocket ship who is ready to take action, ready to launch, grow, or scale your business with strategy, momentum, and a powerful circle of women behind it, this is your space. It's going to have high-level mentorship, aligned business moves, real conversations, and real growth. The doors are opening soon and the spots will be limited. So get on the wait list now, and the link is in the show notes for you. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the Light Her Up podcast. I am so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I am so excited. Well, firstly, we met at a productivity, what is it? I can never remember the name of it. So we met at
The Productive CEO Club.
Productive CEO Club. Thank you. By Diana Lunzer, who's incredible. And we were both trying to get our entrepreneur businesses sort of organized and in order. So we met in that club, and then we realized we were both part of the Like-Minded Collective, which is also an amazing community of women here in Southern California. And ever since I've met you, I've just been so excited to get to know you and learn about your story. And I just can't wait for you to share it with the audience.
Thank you. I know. And then when we realized that we actually lived close to each other, I was like, okay, yes, I don't have to drive to Orange County.
I know. So for anyone listening who's not from Southern California, it's wild how something that's 20 miles away or 30 miles away takes hour. It just takes forever. Anywhere in California, it's I used to work 13 miles away from my house, and it would take me over an hour to get there. I could run faster than that.
Yeah, I have somebody calling me from Texas the other day, and she's like, well, this place is only 23 miles from you. I'm like, we don't go by miles in California. We go by
Yes.
It's a 2-hour drive, ma'am.
Yeah. So now Sarah and, we realize we live pretty close to each other, which makes it a lot easier. So yeah. Okay. So let's start off by telling the audience a bit about who you are, what you do today.
Okay. Well, my name is Sarah. I am the host of the Creating Sunshine podcast. I am a single mom to 2 amazing little girls that are 11 and 7. I am a community builder. I have hosted my own live events, and I really just try to help other people find their sunshine moments in life. And if you can't find them, I try to help you learn how to create them, and just to realize that no matter what is happening in your life, hard, difficult, anything, like, we have so much control over that, and we have so much power over our thinking and how we react and how we respond. And this has really come like full circle for me, because also in January I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer.
Wow. And I just love, firstly, your perspective on everything and what an incredible role model that is for your kids. Seeing you find like the good in everything and the positivity in everything. And there's always a way to find that. And I also love that you call it, finding your sunshine. I think that's so, so special. And yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
Um, so, can you tell the audience about sort of what led you to begin exploring personal development? Did you always have this perspective?
Um, I always had a pretty positive outlook. Like, even growing up, people would be like, "Oh my gosh, like, she's always positive, she's always happy." But I think that things started to shift as I got older, and I still had that on the outside, but I didn't really have it on the inside. And that's when I kind of started to realize that I needed to do something, that I needed to make a change. My husband and I separated in 2019. And I think that was kind of the catalyst for me, because now I was a single mom to two very young girls. My oldest was 5, and my youngest was like a year and a half.
Mm.
And I was internally, I was burnt out. I was overwhelmed. I was stressed out. I was just like going through the motions. I would go to work, I'd come home, I'd try to make things great for the kids, but I was so overwhelmed. And so that's when I started, like, beginning of 2020, I was like, I got to change. I got to do something, because I can't keep going on like this. And that's when I found podcasts, and that was the first thing. And that's why I'm so passionate, and why I want to make my own podcast, because I know what they've done for me and how they changed my life. And I was like, oh my God. And I just became obsessed. I was like, every chance I got, every like drive, every like, if I was at home and I was doing something, I had my headphones on and I was listening to a podcast, because I was like, I'm going to turn this around, and all these people in my ear are telling me I can do it. And sooner or later I started to believe it.
I love that. So, you were proactively choosing the messages that you were hearing and that you were putting into your brain by picking the podcast and really choosing these positive mindsets that you were hearing.
Well, I think in the beginning I was guilty of that, like, overconsumption and like lack of action. So I wouldn't say
Mhm.
that I was like consuming and then I was like, yes, action. It was like consumption, consumption, consumption. And then after like about a year or so, I was like, I should really start implementing some of these like tips and things that they're telling me to do. And then in 2022, I actually attended um my first live event from my very favorite podcaster, and her podcast is Empower Her. Her name is Keisha Get Mary, and she was like my very first that I ever listened to. And so she was hosting a live event, and I was on her text community, and I remember like somehow, like, you always respond to those text communities, but like normally they don't respond back to you. And so that, for whatever reason, she responded back to me, and we kind of started talking back and forth. And I was like, I can't go to this event. Like, I don't know anybody. And that event was in Colorado,
Okay.
I think. And so I was like, okay, whatever. I'll fly to Denver. I don't know anybody. Like, let's go. Let's do the thing. But then being in
Wow.
that room was really like, oh my God. And meeting those women. And it was just like, I felt so safe, and people that really like saw me, and I didn't have to hide anything. And it changed my life, honestly. So that was,
That
I really started like, okay, now I want to go to live events. Now I want to implement the things I'm learning. Now I want to start reading books. And everything just started like, adding on top of each other.
I love that. Also, I love her podcast. Awesome. Highly recommend. And isn't it crazy what happens like when you are in a room of women, just like minded individuals or people who are like helping you raise higher? It's like
Hmm.
the energy exchange. And almost sometimes we have to borrow that energy in order to raise ourselves higher. And it sounds like you went to that event, you were in this room of just incredible high vibe energy, and you left like kind of borrowing some of that energy.
Oh, absolutely. And it was so, for me, like it was so inspirational. It was so motivational. And to see these women and to hear their stories and some similar to mine, and to see what they had done and what they had created. And, for me, that's what it's all about. Like it gave me a little bit of hope. And I was like, okay, like I see the light. I'm starting to see the light on the other side. I'm starting to see
Yeah.
now that you work on your personal development and you deal with your healing and you do all the things that you're supposed to do, like now they're over here and they have their creativity happening and things are, their lives are changing and they were creating things and they were helping other women was the biggest part about it. And I was so inspired by that.
That's amazing. And what you just said about like you see them doing it, because I feel like sometimes when we hear people on podcasts or when we see them on TV or when we read books, I don't know about you, but for me, sometimes it feels like they're so far away. They're so
Yeah.
much beyond me in their journey. But then when you meet them in real person, like in real life in person, and other women who are maybe like a few steps ahead of you, or maybe even not even as far ahead of you, or even farther ahead of you. However, when you meet them, you're like, if she can do it, I
Hmm.
can do it. Like they're a human. They're a human being just like me. They had to start out just where I started out. And it really does give you like inspiration and hope to meet these women in person and see what they were able to achieve.
It totally does. And I remember I went to her second event. I went to the second event as well in 2023 and I met Jamie Kern Lima at that event. And so she came, so we were there Saturday night, like at the VIP night, and she was supposed to speak on Sunday. And me and my roommate, who I had met the year before through the Facebook group, and like we're still friends, we're still in contact. And we were just like, yeah, let's take a chance. Like, let's be roommates. I remember telling her, I was like, oh my God, Jamie Kern Lima's right there. But no one noticed, right? Like nobody had seen her yet. And she was just coming because her friend had a jewelry line and she had a table that night at the VIP event. And she just came to support her friend. She didn't
Aw.
come there for herself. She didn't come there to like sign autographs, but people started seeing her. And so we kind of made our way over there. And of course, she's so kind and so gracious. And she was taking pictures and signing autographs. And we were like, I don't know, the fifth people in line or something like that. Like we were really like up close. And so I get up there to her and she like takes my hand and she's like holding my hand. And her friend's jewelry line is actually, it's so funny because everything is bright yellow, right? And it's like, so me, we're creating sunshine. I'm like already drawn to it. And so we're sitting there talking, and I tell her, I go, I can't believe that you're here. And she's like, why not? And she looked at me like confused, like, why not? And I'm like, I mean, I don't know because like you're Jamie Kern Lima and like, what are you doing here? And she goes, but why wouldn't I be here? Like my best friend is right here. I have to come to support her. And she's like, I'm already speaking tomorrow. So I just thought I would just come down and hang out with you guys. And this whole time she's holding my hand, but like looking at me in the eye. And I just felt so like just seen by her. And she was just the sweetest thing and the most genuine hug I've ever gotten. And she was going to be doing this was before she had released the book Worthy.
Mhm.
And so she was going to be doing like a worthy launch party, right? And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I registered for the launch party. I'm so excited." And she looks at me, she's like, "Oh my gosh, you did?" Well, can I ask you a question? Do you think like the time is okay? Because I was wondering if that was going to be a good time for everybody. And
Oh
I'm like,
my gosh.
what? Like, why is she asking me this? Like, I was blown away. And so I finished with her, and she's just the sweetest, kindest person. And then she tells her team, she's like, hey, I want you to interview her because she's registered for the Worthy launch party. So they ask me all these questions. I do like my social media release. And I'm just like you said, this woman who before that night was so far away that she was like an icon to me, even though I had heard her speak live, like I had never had a one-on-one conversation with her. And after that night, I was like, she's just like me. And she
Yeah.
had a dream and she just did it and went after it. Like there, I felt like we could just hang out and have had lunch and it would have been totally normal. But it's
Yeah.
so true that once you like get to know somebody on a different level, you're like, for me, that was a time that I thought, well, damn, like if she can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah. Ah, that's so incredible. That is such a good story. And also, I've met Jamie Kern Lima too.
Isn't
Not at
she the
that
best?
capacity. She's so nice and
So nice.
down to earth and just that feeling, like you said, where you feel really seen. she somehow has this way of connecting with people in just a few short seconds
Mm-hmm.
and making them feel so seen. And I really feel like it's because, she is us. We
Yeah.
are her, just like not as far along in her as her in our, entrepreneurial careers. But I love that. That's amazing. And yeah, just meeting them in person, people like that, it's like, okay, they were at our stage once. They
Mhm.
were. So cool. Okay, so you were talking about how in 2019 you separated from your husband, you had two small children at the time. So that is a lot of transition going on because I remember when I had my first baby in 2019, or I'm sorry, 2017. Um, and I don't know what you expect. Like, I don't remember what I expected when I was going to have a baby,
Mhm.
but now looking back, I'm like, damn, that was hard. Like
Oh.
having a kid is so hard. Nobody talks about it. And then I remember the nurse saying when I left the hospital with my first, like, okay, we'll see you next year. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never coming back here again. Like, I'm traumatized. I never want to come back here. And
Right?
also, you're letting me leave the hospital with a human being. Like, how am I going to, like, no one taught me like how to take care of this thing yet.
Right.
So anyway, get home. 2 years go by. I'm back in the hospital again, exactly almost 2 years to the date with my second. And then I feel like when we had the second, it was like we had him in 2019. Um, and then of course a year later, 2020 rocked everyone's world.
Mhm.
So at that point, it was like we had a lot of like reflection time because 2020, a lot of people were home, life slowed down, especially people with young kids. You're multitasking, you're also trying to like take in all that's happening in the world. And at the time, you separated from your husband shortly before. So, like, that's a lot going on at once.
Yes.
Um, like, what did your day-to-day life look like, let's say like 2020, after you had separated, your kids were still young, 2020 was happening, all of these things?
Oh. That was it was difficult. It for sure was. And I was also working full time as a manager at Costco during COVID.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I was working and I had morning shifts. I was the receiving manager. So I would go to work at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Like it was, and we would be there for it felt like at the time, like as long as you could handle it. There
Yeah.
was like no normally it was like 10, 11-hour days. My oldest at the time, actually, she was in kindergarten. So we were
Okay.
kindergarten on Zoom at the same
Oh my
time.
gosh.
And it was I don't even know. But what ended up happening in 2020, in addition to the podcast, is well, let me tell you this part too, because I never had any kind of social media until 2019. I never had Facebook. I never had MySpace. I never had nothing because I was the type that was like, oh, well, if people are my friends, then they will know when my birthday is. And I feel like Facebook is so stupid because why do I need that to tell people when my birthday is?
Yeah.
Right. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And people, when my husband and I were together, he was in the Marine Corps and we lived 4 years in San Diego, and that was when I had my first daughter, was when we were in San Diego, and everybody had asked me, like, "Why don't you just get a Facebook? Like, stop texting us these pictures every month of your daughter, just post them." And I was like, "No, I don't wanna do that." And so, I don't know, whatever it is that made me change my mind, I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna try this, and I'm gonna get on Instagram." So, that was a big part of it too, because I really had no idea. Like I was so wrong because now what it's done for me and the people that I've met and the connections that I've made, I feel like it's like anything else. Like you're going to get out what you put into it, right? I know there's a lot of people that, maybe doom scrolling, wasting time. Like I've been guilty of that myself, obviously, too. Still am some days. But what happened in 2020 was also, I have not always, I'm going to take that back. For my 40th birthday in 2020, what I did was I bought myself a Cricut printer.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make decorations for the girls for their birthday parties and I'm going to crafts and I'm going to do this because I needed something to keep myself busy because I was really like, I was burning the candle at both ends and there was no
Mhm.
end in sight. And I felt like I was already overwhelmed. And then once, COVID hit and I was just like, oh my God, like I really don't know how much more I can take. So I bought the Cricut printer and I started seeing people online, and that's probably why you can see behind me like my glitter wall over here.
Oh,
So I
cool.
started seeing people online and they were making like glitter tumblers, you know, they
Okay.
were putting, and so I thought, well, maybe I could try to do that. And it literally spawned into a whole entire business of crafting and making glitter tumblers and selling them. And that was that was my release. I used to always say like crafting is my therapy. And, I've
Yeah.
taken a break over these past couple years, but I've just recently actually started, making them again. And I made them for the girls for their teacher gifts and made one for my mom for Mother's Day. And I'm like, oh, I kind of missed this. And
Yeah.
now trying to put my like, sunshine spin on them. But
Oh,
that really, it helped me because, and that was something that the girls and I started doing together too, as we started crafting, and I would be doing my cups and then they would be painting, or they would be pretend making cups while I was making real cups. And,
aw.
because other than that, it's like, what do you have? You can't go anywhere. Everything's closed, and they were young. I mean, even the parks were closed. Like, how
Yeah.
bad was it to go by the parks and there's caution tape everywhere? Like,
It was wild.
it was terrible.
Yeah. You're like, what am I going to do with two small kids who need to
Right.
like get energy out and like need to go outside? But yeah, wow. Okay. So that's so cool. And I know you mentioned something about like you needed to keep yourself busy. And I sort of feel like that's like your unicorn space. Like that was
Mhm.
your me time. Like you
Yeah.
found joy in that and it was for you more than anything else. And then it ended up turning into something that you were actually able to make money off of, which is pretty
Mhm.
cool.
Mhm. I know. And like the girls would go to bed. And so then I just sit here and paint cups.
I love that. That's so cool. So, okay, so when you were kind of going through this phase and you discovered the crafting and all of that, like were those the signs that you realized you needed to shift, or how did you know it was burnout at the time?
Well, the funny thing is that when I was in it, I didn't really know it was burnout because I kind of just thought that that was life and adulthood. And I thought that that's the way, that's just what happened.
Mhm.
And when I started with the crafting, and at the same time, I'm listening to the podcast, and I'm kind of meeting the people that seem like maybe they don't seem so stressed out. Maybe they don't seem so overwhelmed because along with the crafting and the cup business, that came a whole community in itself. And that was kind of my first introduction, even before I had went to the events. That was my first introduction to community. Was, we were all these like 30, 40-year-old women over here playing with glitter and making cups, but we got it. We understood each other, and when I had questions and I reached out, they were so kind and they were so nice. And it was kind of like, even though we were all doing the same thing, we were like, hey, everybody needs to drink, right? Like there's enough room for all of us. And so there wasn't this crazy, like, I mean, I think there was amongst some people, some cattiness and competition, but the women that I met, you know, we were all so nice, and it was the same thing. It's like not all of us lives here in California, some were in
Mhm.
Jersey, some were in Texas, and it was just the coolest thing to have that introduction to community. And once I really started with the crafting and the podcasting and then implementing some of the things that I was learning at these events, that's when I started to really feel better.
Mhm.
And my sleep became better. I didn't have all of the chest pains and the anxiety that I had. And that's when I started to realize, like, oh, I think I was completely burnt out. I think I was completely stressed out and overwhelmed. But sometimes it's hard when you're in it because you just feel like that's just life. And once I started to do the things and realize that, like, no, it's not, like, you don't have to feel that way. That was when I started to realize what was really happening like 2 years prior.
Yeah. Wow. And it's so crazy too, because I do feel like for most people, including myself, when you're in burnout, like you mentioned, you don't realize it. And I think
Right.
it's just because society today makes you feel like that is how life is supposed to be. Like,
Right.
if you're not feeling this way, then are you even working hard enough? Are you trying your best? Like, when really it's completely opposite. Like, life does not have to be like that. Actually,
Right.
it shouldn't be like that.
Or
Something's
society
wrong.
makes you want to feel that if it is that way, then they're just going to go give you a bunch of medication and just deal with
Yeah.
it that way. You know what I mean? That there's not, let's look at the root cause and let's look at what's really going on and how we can, and that's the thing that I've learned so much is like, what can I do to deal with this? And what can I do to deal with life? Because I'm not that I'm anti-medication, obviously. Like I have to take medication, especially since my diagnosis. But
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of unnecessary,
Mhm.
stuff that happens that can be dealt with in different ways.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. Um so when you mention about your breast cancer diagnosis, like I can imagine how that shifted your perspective. And looking back, it was probably a huge blessing that you had done all of this work leading up
Mhm.
to that point. Like, firstly, just being an overall positive person in general, but then really, it sounds like you did some deep inner work going to those events, doing personal development. So when this happened, can you share like what that experience was like emotionally, mentally, spiritually? How did that impact you?
Um, well, I had first found it's been a while now because I actually found the lump last July.
Okay.
And but then what happened was I found the lump, and I was just in the shower, felt it, and I was like, I should probably get that checked because I don't remember that being there. But I didn't I didn't have a primary. My OB had retired. And so, you become a new patient and it takes, I think my first appointment was then in October. Like that's
Wow.
how long it took me to get an appointment. But I will tell you that so October was my appointment. November, I had my ultrasound and mammogram, like end of November. And then I didn't even have my biopsy until like mid December. But my primary had already told me at the beginning of December that my mass was cancer, even
Mm,
without the biopsy. And I didn't even know that you could do that. I thought that like the biopsy was always what determined it.
mhm,
And he had to really like get me to listen because
mhm,
what had already happened was during the mammogram and the ultrasound, the doctor had came in and he told me like we're going to assume it's cancer until we know that it's not.
mhm,
And me, I was like, "Oh, this guy is so rude." Like, I told
mhm,
everybody that I thought this doctor had horrible bedside manner. I
mhm,
was like, "Why would he say that? I haven't even had a biopsy. Like, that's not my vibe, like I'm telling
mhm,
everybody."
mhm,
And so when I went to see my primary the following week and he tells me, he's like, "Your blood tests look great. Everything looks great. That's going to make this next step a lot easier." And I'm like, "What next step? Like, what are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, didn't you hear what the doctor told you last week?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." And he was so rude. I can't believe that he said it like that. And he goes, "I'm going to need you to listen to me. Like, I can tell that this is cancer without the biopsy." And when he said that, I was like, "Wait, what?"
mm,
Because even through this whole time, through finding the lump and it was getting bigger, like, there was not even 1% in my mind that thought that this was going to be cancer. I
yeah,
was like, "This is a cyst. I need to get it removed. It's getting uncomfortable. It's getting big." But when he told me that, I was like, "I'm sorry, what did you say?"
yeah,
And then he was like, "The biopsy is going to determine the stage and the treatment." And I'm like, "Oh my God." So, of course,
mhm,
I'm rocked. And I go to my parents and I kind of just break down. But I decide that, like, I'm not going to tell my daughters until my plan was to tell them after Christmas because I didn't want to tell them before Christmas. And plus, I didn't really know the details yet. So, once they had questions, I wouldn't, like, what was I going to
right,
say?
yeah,
So even at this point, even when I get the biopsy, I'm still thinking, well, I probably just need surgery. Like it's probably stage one. But at this
mhm,
point, the mass is now like a clementine. Like it's getting
okay,
big.
yeah,
But I'm still thinking it's not that serious. I'm still thinking I could just
yeah,
have surgery, knock it out, 2 weeks, I'll
yeah,
be back to work, no problem. And that didn't really pan out that way because then once they told me in January when I got the diagnosis that it was stage 3 and it was triple negative, which is one of the most aggressive kinds of breast cancer that you can get.
wow.
So now me and my daughters kind of joke that I'm overachiever because I get all the rare stuff.
Oh,
And but it was when I first found I would say that I never felt hopeless, and
mhm,
I was like I'm always the type of person that's like, okay, what's the plan?
yep,
Okay, what's the treatment? What's the plan? What do I need to do? And, I told my daughters and I told them that I would need treatment. And then I told them that I would need surgery because for the type of breast cancer that I have, they have to shrink it before they can do the surgery because she told me if we just go straight in and do surgery, it's going to come back. Like it's
mm,
inevitable. So I've already done 6 rounds of chemo and I just finished the last week actually. And then I'll be having surgery coming up. But I definitely think that, yes, the work that I've done has helped so much because I knew what I needed when things started feeling out of control. And like right before I started treatment, girls that I had met through communities or groups I had been in or whatever, like one girl, we did a breath work the day before I started my treatment. And it was custom and it was virtual. She's in Colorado and she was like, I would love to create this for you. I'm like, I just need to calm my mind, quiet my mind, like get myself in the right place to start this. And then I had another girl, she did a custom hypnosis for me.
Mm.
And the things that I was doing before, like maybe I was kind of doing them like once a month or once every 2 months, like I wasn't really doing them that often. But now it's like, okay, no, I'm going to schedule this like every 2 weeks. So now I do nightly meditation because I just need something to help me go to sleep because my mind is like normally going a million miles a minute. But that's why I always tell people, like, don't wait until something terrible happens in your life to start doing this personal development
Mhm.
because I can only imagine how difficult, much more difficult this would have been if I didn't have like these tools and these things that I was already doing. Like, you have to, this for me is like a lifestyle maintenance.
Yeah.
I think that doing it before you need it is like the biggest piece of advice that I could give anybody is like, please don't wait. If you're like, well, things are pretty good right now, that's great. Now is when you want to start. Like when things
Yeah.
are great, do it now because then when difficult things happen, like you're so much more able to deal with it.
Yeah. Wow, and that's so powerful too because like life is difficult. Everyone has problems. Everyone is going to have challenges and roadblocks and things that come up, whether it's cancer that you have yourself, whether it's a close friend or family member that has it, what if it's like an accident, if it's there's so many things, right?
Mhm.
And so not to like prepare for something negative to happen, not with that mindset, but just like preparing for life's challenges because
Yeah.
they're bound to come. Like they just are. And sort of like your mentality is you can still find the sunshine in all of that. Like I think that's so beautiful that you and your kids joke about it, you being an overachiever. Like, no, I just love that you can like kind of, make light and have fun with the situation
Yeah.
because it is a heavy thing, that's really hard.
Yeah. And they're
Yeah.
young. I mean, my kids are 11 and 7 and I was like, it's difficult for them to have to go through it, but yeah, we do things like we were talking before we got on, I have like 5 different wigs, and my oldest daughter has named each one of them. So they all have a name and they all have a backstory. So every
Yeah.
time I get a new wig, and she'll go on like Instagram on my stories and she'll introduce them and like who they are and what they do. So yeah, I mean, and I've been very, very honest with them from the beginning about what it's going to be and not hiding it from them. And so there have been difficult days when I've gotten really, really sick. I've had infections, I've been hospitalized, but I feel like when you shield stuff like that from your kids, like once they get older, it's almost like they don't know how to deal with it and they don't know how to deal with life. So yes, my kids
Mhm.
are probably seeing way more than like what the average kid sees, but I don't want to sit here and paint this, although we talk about sunshine moments all the time. I don't want to paint this picture to them that that life is always like butterflies and rainbows because it's not,
Mhm. Yep.
but like my youngest daughter and I were just talking this morning because she always asks me like, "Oh, what are you doing with your day, mom?" And I said, "Oh, I'm going to be interviewed on Natalie's podcast." And she's like, "Okay, I think you told me about her before. Go ahead." So she's asked me, but then she asked me like, "Why am I not wearing my Creating Sunshine shirt?" And I go, "Oh, well, it's dirty." I said, "But plus it's her podcast. It's not mine." And she goes, "Mom, you always have to tell people." She's like, "No, always, mom." She's like, "Choose positive, choose positive." And I'm like, "You're right." And she's 7 years old and it's so crazy.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there talking about it. And I said, because there are things that happen in your life. And I said, but you have two choices. You're going to choose positive or you're going to choose negative. I'm like, because the situation's not going to change.
Right.
So either I could sit here and be negative about it, or I could choose to be positive. But not only the positive thinking, like it changes your outlook, but I've been, doing so much research and reading so much books. It's like I also believe 100% that that's why my treatment has been so successful
Yes.
because of the
Yes.
thinking, because of the positive thinking and the outlook and knowing that there's hope. Because now my cancer on an MRI is like you can't even detect it in a physical exam at all. And
That's
on the MRI,
amazing.
is like less than 2 centimeters. And they said, well, we're pretty sure that everything that's in there is just dead cancer cells anyway. So it's like that
Wow.
has to have contributed to that.
100%. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I mean, I'm sure you've looked this up, but there are so many research backed studies about like how mindset truly
Yep.
changes the outcome of illness. It's
100%.
wild. It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
So, wow. And also like you mentioned, I think that's so great that you're open and honest with your kids because I do feel like yes, we want our kids to be kids. Absolutely. They should have a childhood and be kids and they can also take on way more than we
Hmm.
think sometimes.
They are very resilient.
They're so resilient and so strong and they're much smarter than sometimes we give them credit for. And when they become adults, like at least I was like with my parents, when they hid things from me and
Hmm.
I found out later as an adult, I almost had like this resentment towards them. Like,
Yes.
how could you not have told me this massive thing that was
Right.
going on in your life?
Right.
Like this isn't huge. It's life changing.
Yeah.
So anyway, kudos to you on that because that is I'm sure it wasn't easy to do at first.
No,
So
it for sure wasn't. And then the thing about, and then that was the other challenging thing is, deciding if I was going to share it because, part of me, and it didn't last very long, but part of me, because I already had the podcast, I was already sharing basically my whole entire life on social media, right? I was actually getting ready to launch a membership, which I had to pause because I was like, I don't know how I'm even going to take care of myself, much less like pour into a community right now. But part of me was like, well, I could just keep on like posting my motivational quotes. I'll put my weekly podcast episodes. Like maybe I just won't say anything.
mhm.
But then again, start to think about the kids. And when I tell my daughters and I tell them, like, I don't want you guys to be embarrassed or ashamed. I want you guys to tell who you feel comfortable telling. And then, as being a mom, like our kids are going to do what we do. They're not going to do what
Right.
we say. And I thought, how can I sit here when I already have this, public platform and tell my kids, oh, go ahead and share with everybody and go ahead and do this. And then I'm over here hiding it. And I felt like that would have been so hypocritical of me. But then it also kind of made me think too about all the people that had inspired me and motivated me, that I saw along the way. I thought, maybe I'll be a couple steps ahead of somebody else who's just diagnosed or somebody else who's just going through it. And maybe I could help someone else, as I'm not only going through it, but I also have learned how healing it is for me to actually just be open and honest about what's going on in my life. So like I said, it probably lasted about like 30 seconds. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to share this. And I did wait. I mean, it was weeks. Like I had already known for probably about a month or so before I actually like went on social media and shared it. And some of my friends were like, because my stuff was real cryptic. It was really like, it was like the hidden message behind the quote. And people started like, are you okay? Is there
Oh,
something going on? And I was like,
yeah.
yeah, so I would tell like, the people that had messaged me and stuff like that. They were like, "Oh my god, I had no idea." And then I was like, "Okay, I just got to rip the band-aid and like it is
Yeah.
what it is." And so I just put it all out there.
Yeah. You were kind of like tiptoeing in
Right.
until people weren't letting you tiptoe in
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
Yeah. So how did it feel when you just ripped the Band-Aid off?
Uh well, I recorded a podcast episode about it and then I kind of like posted the podcast episode and then I did a post that went along with it. And it was like I knew people were going to be supportive and I knew that people were going to reach out, but like I wasn't prepared for it in that way. Like it was, my phone started ringing, I was getting text messages. It was like, and some people that I hadn't seen or talked to in like, I'm talking years. Like
Mhm.
there's people from high school that were reaching out to me and like
Oh.
I've been out of high school for a long time. And it was really amazing, honestly. And also there was a lot of people that I knew like personally in my life, and they were reaching out to me, sharing their own stories that I had no idea, or people that
Wow.
were really close to them that were like, this is happening in my life. And it was almost like they just needed permission, to say it. And
Yeah.
I was shocked because I was like, I know these people. Some of these people, I know their whole entire family. Like I had no clue,
Yeah.
and then even people I know that had already been through it that didn't share it, like then decided to go and share it. Like 2 years later, a friend of mine, she puts it on hers, like, this is what happened to me. And I'm like, I am so freaking proud of you for doing that. So yeah, it was very, very overwhelming. Like, but it,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And yeah, like I just want to validate that sharing your story is absolutely giving people hope because it gives me hope. And like with no cancer diagnosis at all, like just in terms of like how to approach life and getting over hurdles and challenges. And when I see someone like you doing that, I'm like, if Sarah can do that, I can get through these life challenges that I'm experiencing, you know? And also in the event that something like someone who's following you or watching you or on your social media or whatever, however they get into your world, if something like this does happen to them, they're going to remember, like, wow, Sarah had such a positive mindset, finding that sunshine in the day. And like, yes, there were bad days. And also, there's a way to like make some good out of this. So, yeah, that's incredible.
thank you.
Amazing. So, since this whole sort of like, it's been like 5 years, I guess, since 2019 up
Mm.
until now with all of the transitionings happen, has your definition of success or fulfillment changed at all during that time?
Yes, definitely. And actually, there's somebody that I just interviewed last week on my podcast, and we were talking all about wealth and the way that she described it. Like, I thought it was just so perfect because, you know, so many people think of wealth like money, right? Your success of like your money or your status or your position at work or whatever. But especially after going through this, like, wealth to me, I realized like that's not what it means, you know? And that's why my daughters and I celebrate so much because when you're sitting here and you're talking about wealth, like, yeah, it could be great to have like $1 million in the bank, but how many people do you know or do you see that have that, that they're still not happy? You
Mhm.
know, because that's not what's going to fulfill them. That's not what's going to make them happy. Yes, it would be great if I had $1 million in the bank, like, don't get me wrong, but realizing that success and wealth to me really means, you know, being intentional with my time and with the people that are in my life and how I spend my time and how I spend my days. And, you know, my character, my legacy, like, you know, my integrity, like those are the things that are show me success because I feel like, you know, there's so many people that are out there doing so many things that are not fulfilling them or not being genuine and not being authentic, you know,
Mhm.
even in our industry that are doing it like for the money,
True.
but not really doing it for like the right reasons. And so I would say my definition has shifted greatly, especially in these past 6 months, you know, and I even have a newfound appreciation for, like I was telling her, I said, like, I love my home, like, and if there's something that I don't like about it, then I can just change it, you know?
Mhm.
And this has given me the opportunity to slow down and to really like change the things I want to change. My daughters and I started a garden in the backyard, you know, like we've been doing all sorts of things. And, you know, and they've even been commenting to me like, wow, mom, this really feels great because, you know, before it was just it's all the stuff, you know, and all the
Yeah.
clutter and not really like having a chance or having an opportunity to go through it and now doing it. And they're like, wow, mom, like everything feels so great. And I'm not sitting here always, you know, complaining about all the stuff and the mess and everything else. And we've just got into like a really, really good place to where we're all, you know, like enjoying our home, enjoying our time. And it's changed my perspective so much on so many things.
That's amazing. And I can totally relate with that. You know, you get stuck in this rut, like, especially if you're in the same place for a while. Like, I've been in
Mhm.
my house for 10 years.
Us too.
And okay, okay. So
Yes.
yeah, I catch myself sometimes looking around and being like, I just want to move or
Yeah.
I'm so sick of this like room. And really, you're right. It's about being intentional about what you're doing with that space, how you're spending your time in that space. Um, and I'm really big on like the vibe,
Yeah.
like that it brings me. Like some of our rooms are like kind of dark, some are really bright. So I use them for like different things. And yeah, it's really like you get to giving yourself permission and knowing like you actually get to choose what your room looks like, what your house looks like, and you can change it at any time.
Right, and this space that I'm in right now, actually, I just changed it, like, 3 weeks ago, and now I'm spend, like, so much time here because I was like I would just walk in and walk past it, And it was just a catch-all craft area that I wasn't really using anymore. And I'm like, I want like a podcast space and I want a craft space. And I was like, well, why don't I just do it? Like, what am I waiting for? You know?
Yeah.
And
And it's
that's
like
the other
the
big thing.
vibe.
Like, there was so much stuff that I was putting off, so much stuff that I was saying later, so much stuff. And this is really like when those things or were clogging my brain, like it wasn't allowing me to have that, like, creativity that I wanted, and realizing that a lot of the stuff that I was putting off really doesn't take that long. And now it's
Yeah.
like, okay, let's really just attack it. And in 30 minutes, I got something done that I'd probably been thinking about for 6 months. Like, it's just the
Totally.
wildest thing.
I know. I know. There's a saying, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's something like, if you think of something that you have to do, just do it now,
Mhm.
because it's actually going to like deplete energy from you if
Yes.
you don't do it, because you're constantly then thinking about, oh, I have to do this thing. And then you start to feel bad, like, oh, I haven't done that thing.
Yeah.
Just
100%.
do it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the woman who's listening right now who feels like she's in burnout, or she's hearing some of the things that you were talking about and she's now like noticing, wow, maybe I am actually in burnout or survival mode. Maybe she has nothing left for herself to give. What would you want her to know?
The big thing that I talk about a lot is like, I just want to tell her, like, you have so much more control than what you think. You really do. And you just have to, even if it's like 10 minutes a day, because I think people get really, really overwhelmed by the whole, like, all these people on their personal development journey. And like, I don't have that kind of time. When
Yeah.
I tell you that like 10 minutes a day can literally change your life, like it really can. Even if you're going outside for a walk or you're taking, 10 deep breaths when you wake up in the morning before you go into your kids, like, there's so many small shifts that you can do. And you might not notice right away in the beginning of the changes that it's having, but give it a week, give it 2 weeks. And all of a sudden you might realize, like, oh, I feel like I have so much more patience. I,
Yeah.
I'm not losing my mind. I feel like I'm not losing control. That, like I say, you can't control the situation sometimes. You really can't, but you can control the way that you respond, the way you react, the way that you show up. And that, it has huge opportunity to actually sometimes change the situation.
True. That's such a good reminder. Such a good reminder. Okay, so I have a few rapid fire questions if you're okay with that. I just
I'm
like to
good.
end
Let's
with a
go.
couple. So what is one quote or mantra that you've been getting that's been getting you through lately?
Oh,
Or word?
really? I mean, it keeps coming back because it's everywhere in my house. It's everywhere I look. Like, it's just, it has to be like the sunshine moments. It's,
Yeah.
it's huge for us.
Yeah. I love that. And also I love that it's not only your brand, it's not only your podcast, it's what you embody. Like it's truly you're embodying it, your kids are embodying it. That's so so powerful. So I
Oh,
love it.
thank you.
And what is a simple everyday thing that helps you feel grounded?
For me, I do my meditation at night. So I use an Insight Timer. I use a meditation app, and it helps me go to sleep with a good mindset. But also, waking up, I do not go on my phone. You guys, I can't tell how life changing this has been for me. So I do 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. I do no social media.
Okay.
And for me, that's just helped so much because I get up and I start my day and I'm deciding like what I want to do with my day and I'm deciding what it's going to be. I'm not automatically picking up my phone and reacting to everything that's going on, because, and the days that I do fall into that trap, I feel a difference in how my whole entire day goes if I start my day that way.
Yeah. That's wild.
It's
Uh,
it's scary though because it has
yeah.
so much control and like sometimes you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
But actually being intentional, and sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I'm waiting till like 8:01. I'm like, I have to get on my phone, like I really try. But then some like the other day it's like 10:30 and I'm like, oh, maybe I should check. I mean,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So do you sleep with your phone in a different room?
I don't because I use it for the Insight Timer meditation app.
Okay.
But
Okay.
so I'll get in the bed, I'll put the app on and I put it face down and my phone is
Okay.
on do not disturb from like 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I have like 5 emergency contacts that can get through if they want to. But that way, just in case, like there's no notifications that are going to go off.
Okay. And then it's just purely like your discipline. Like I'm not checking social
Yeah.
media until 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. I need to implement that. I do this thing called Sky Before Screen,
Uh-huh.
which I heard last year. I think her name is Dr. Amy Shaw. But I take the dog outside and I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the sky.
Yeah.
I'm like getting my morning routine before I like immediately dive into my phone. But I could absolutely see the benefits of making that a longer window and
Yeah.
really letting myself ground and like get a hold of the day before I let it take over me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
When I had a client too, that's what we used to would tell her, and it was sunshine before screen time. So
Oh,
she
cool.
worked this crazy night shift, and she would wake up, because getting off 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and wake up and still kind of tired, but then like getting on her phone, and so it really challenged her. And she was like, "No, it made a huge difference. Like actually getting myself out of bed and going out and getting some sunshine before my screen time."
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I ask this question to everyone, but what is something you're currently working on that's lighting you up from the inside out?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this. Um, and it's been a long time coming, but I'm actually working on it's called a 7-day mindset reset. And this was something that I am creating because for the people that are looking like to actually try to start, or you don't even have to be somebody that's starting on your personal development journey. You can already be on it. But for me in the beginning, it was really hard because I didn't know, like I was going on YouTube, and I was looking for podcasts. And then it's like, and I just felt like I was spending so much time like looking everything up and trying to put it together. And I was like, what if I put something together for the person that feels like they don't have a lot of time, but they really know they want to make a shift? And so that's basically what it is. It's a 7-day mindset reset that I'm working on. And so you'll get 7 days of personalized, think of it like little mini podcast episodes from me, 3 to 5 minutes. Each day has a different topic. And then along with that, you're going to get journal prompts. So to do this, you literally need like 15 minutes a day. That's all it's going to take you. And to just really show people like what you can do in 7 days, by consuming things that are intentional and then really like putting those things into practice.
I love that. Oh, can I join? I really want to do it.
Yes, 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 yes. I'm so excited. And I spoke at a virtual summit on Friday, and it was so funny because I have most of it done, and I was like in the works, and I just ripped the Band-Aid and I told the community all about it. And I was like, yes, let's join, let's do it. So
Yes.
yes,
Amazing. Well, I can think
absolutely.
of no better person to lead that but you. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
And where can the listeners find you? How can they stay in your world?
Well, you guys can find me on Instagram between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m.
Yes.
um, I think I said that backwards. Between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you guys can find Instagram. That's the main social media platform that I'm on. Also, you can listen to my podcast, Creating Sunshine. And I also have an email list. So that way, you'd be the first person to know about anything I'm dropping. And then you get reminded about podcast episodes, because as much as I try to stay consistent and release an episode every single Wednesday, obviously life happens. So that way, if you're on the email list, every time I release a new episode, you get a notification.
Love it. Okay. And I'm going to link all of that in the show notes so everyone can find you, start listening to your podcast, get in the 7-day reset. Is that what it was? The 7-day reset?
7-day mindset reset. Yeah.
Mindset reset. Okay. Perfect. So I just want to say thank you so much. You are such a light. I'm so glad I got the opportunity to meet you. I am so grateful to have had you on this podcast. And I'm just so excited that this episode is going to expand so many women. So thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me. This is amazing.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Light Her Up. I hope you're feeling inspired and ready to take steps towards a life better than you ever dreamed. I see you, I hear you, and I'm so proud of you for showing up and prioritizing your journey. When you fill up your cup with love, you can pour so much more into the people and passions that matter to you most. If this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you subscribed, left a review, and shared it with someone who could use a little extra light. For more, check out our weekly 5-minute meditations or connect with me on Instagram at The Light Within Collective. I'm sending you my love, and I'll catch you on the next episode.